So, what happens when the quest for perfect health actually starts making you sick? Well, that's exactly what we're going to dive into today. We're exploring the incredible story of author Julie Salter, who went to the absolute edge of wellness culture and somehow found her way back to what really matters: true balance. Her journey is honestly a must-hear for anyone trying to figure out this crazy, often confusing world of health.
And this quote right here just hits you, doesn't it? Julie perfectly captures that deep, gut-wrenching fear when your own body feels like it's betraying you. That feeling of being totally lost, well, that's the emotional heart of this whole story.
Okay, before we go any deeper, we need to get this out of the way, and it's super important. This explainer covers one person's very personal experience. So please, always, and I mean always, talk to a qualified healthcare professional before you start making any big changes to your own health routine.
All right, so let's set the scene. On the outside, Julie's life looked like the absolute picture of health. But under the surface, a war was brewing, one that was about to turn her own body into a battlefield. I mean, she was checking all the boxes, you know? She was an active coach, a successful digital product specialist, even an NLP practitioner. That's someone who really digs into the connection between our minds and our behavior. Life was busy, full, and from the outside, pretty great, which just makes what happened next even more jarring. And then it just started to unravel. It started small. Suddenly she couldn't run anymore. Then came this bone-deep fatigue that was way more than just being tired. It was this slow, creeping takeover. The body she'd always counted on was just failing her, and she had absolutely no clue why. So after months and months of tests, she finally got an answer, and it was a wild one: metal toxicity poisoning. Her levels were so off the charts that her first reaction was to joke that her childhood habit of chewing on pencils had finally caught up with her. But the reality was anything but funny. The standard treatments were just too risky for her body in its weakened state. So what do you do when conventional medicine says, we can't help? Well, with this terrifying diagnosis hanging over her, Julie did what a lot of us might do. She jumped headfirst into the world of extreme wellness. She was completely convinced she could detox her way back to health if she just tried hard enough. And this, right here, this is the trap. The world of extreme wellness promises glowing skin, endless energy, vibrant health. But for Julie, the reality was a gaunt, fragile body hanging on by a thread. She was living in constant survival mode, all in the name of the perfect cleanse. Just how bad did it get? 40 kilos. Let that sink in for a second. That was her weight at rock bottom. She was so fragile she could barely walk or even talk. The irony is just brutal, isn't it? In her effort to do everything right for her health, she was making herself sicker than ever. This quote just says it all. It perfectly captures how twisted things can get. In this obsessive chase for clean eating, she was cutting out things her body was screaming for. She gave up beer, thinking it was the ultimate healthy choice, only to realize later she was starving her gut of a fermented food it desperately needed. And that was the moment it all cracked open. Right there at her absolute lowest, she had this massive epiphany. Real wellness isn't about chasing perfection, it's about finding balance. So she had to completely tear down her old idea of wellness. She realized it's not just about what you eat or how much you exercise. It's holistic. It's about your mind, your emotions, your spirit, all of it, working together. It's a journey, a process, not some finish line you cross. She started using this tool called the Wheel of Life. And when she mapped everything out, the picture was, well, it was a mess. The wheel was totally lopsided. Her obsessive focus on the health slice had completely starved all the other important parts of her life, like relationships, joy, and purpose. So, armed with this new perspective, her whole approach changed. She stopped chasing the next extreme protocol and started building a totally new foundation for her recovery, one based on a completely different set of tools. A huge piece of the puzzle was finally getting the power of the mind-body connection. You know, experts like Dr. Joe Dispenza talk about this all the time, the idea that our internal state, our thoughts, our feelings can literally change our biology. Julie decided to put that idea to work. One of her most powerful new tools was visualization. And this wasn't just wishful thinking, it was a practice. She started to mentally rehearse being healthy. She'd set a clear intention, imagine it with all her senses to make it feel totally real, and then do it again, every single day, to build those new pathways in her brain. Her approach to food? It did a complete 180.
Restriction was out, nourishment was in. She started bringing in all these amazing fermented foods she'd been avoiding, things like kefir, sauerkraut, kimchi, even mustard, all to heal her gut and tap into that powerful gut-brain connection.
And finally, she totally redefined what recovery even means. It wasn't about pushing through pain anymore. No, recovery became an action, an intentional choice. She embraced gentle movement and active rest, finally understanding that taking time to recover isn't a weakness, it's an absolute necessity for healing.
So where does a story like this end? Well, here's the kicker. It doesn't, and that's the whole point. The biggest lesson she learned was to reframe wellness altogether. It's not a destination you finally arrive at, it's a daily practice you live for the rest of your life. You can see the transformation so clearly here. Her approach to diet went from restriction and perfection to nourishment and balance. Her mindset shifted from trying to fix a problem to cultivating resilience. And most importantly, her life went from just surviving to actually thriving. And that brings us right back to ourselves, doesn't it? Julie's story really forces us to look in the mirror at our own beliefs. So here's a question to leave you with. What's one extreme idea about health? One little piece of that perfectionist mindset that you're holding on to? Maybe, just maybe, it's time to let it go and make a little more room for balance.